Good evening and welcome to the Shadows of New Orleans. Tonight we're joining our guru as a number of new arrivals, or at least more recent arrivals, gather on Sept. Nightweaver has requested the aid of some of the younger guru in an investigation. Specifically, he has asked Unchained to join them as well, as he demonstrated capability in the last investigation. He has also asked True Shot to attend. However, he has specifically requested perhaps that, again, some restraint be used, as gathering information is key to some of these investigations. The relevant topic tonight was a howl that went up over the water in the southeast edges of the Sept. The reason this is unusual, of course, in Bear's investigation is that the howl was not a voice familiar to anyone on the Sept. That being said, it was half a call for aid and half an announcement. For in the tongue of Guru, it was an introduction that calls for, an introduction that Sails with Gulls has brought bounty but requires assistance. He recognizes that he is new, but foreigners pursue him. To that end, and recognizing that it came over the water, Nightweaver has given supplied a boat for ease of travel if needed, but it seemed to be approaching the southeast coast of the marshes, an area the Red Talons are familiar with. Another benefit to bringing Unchained, as the deep marshes are their territory. To that point, I will turn it over for everyone to introduce themselves and ask any questions of Nightweaver they wish. And then we will set out on this pursuit, as it were.
True Shot will show up as requested, and once he, just before he steps onto the set grounds, he'll shift his sidearm to a hidden section just at his lower back, so it's not seen by Unchained, as he showed uncomfortableness with it. But seeing we're going into the marshes, gators, and stuff like that, he'll bring it with him, but it's just hidden. He'll lean against a tree and give a nod to Nightweaver.
Unchained will also turn up as soon as he's asked for, really. He's kind of just been sitting down, listening to all this. There's some things he doesn't understand. He had to ask what a boat was. However, once it's described to him, he understands it. He just didn't know he just didn't have a word to associate with what he saw, pretty much. He hasn't seemed the most enthused about taking a boat, but if it's like orders from Nightweaver, then he's begrudgingly going along with it.
So Nightweaver provided as an option. There's paths through the marshes as well that don't require a boat, many of which are maintained by the Red Talons. So it's at your discretion if you want to use it or not. The howls seem to come from what's assumed to be a boat. It came from over the water, but it was approaching. So the question of, do you take the boat and engage prior to landfall, or do you wait for this individual to set foot and then engage?
Unchained being unfamiliar with boats, really. Like, he's seen them, never been on one, doesn't particularly want to be on one. He'll say, we'll look over to True Shot and say, perhaps we should. No, he won't say it like that. He'll say, we should wait until they are on land.
See your guys' turf. I'll let you. You got lead. I'll follow your lead on this.
All right. We will not need a boat for most of this. And he'll start heading out. He's not really the best at, manners, so he didn't really say bye to Nightweaver. He's just kind of leaving.
Trishad will give him a nod as he turns into a loose Unchained.
Yeah. He's not really the best at bye. He's just kind of like, we're going now. Unchained is going to, along with True Shot, start to. He's definitely going to want to go through the marsh to get to a good spot where. What am I thinking? Where they can meet up with whoever is on their way. Is it possible to be upwind here, or is it downwind? Either way, he wants to be able to smell them. He wants to be able to smell anything new.
Well, the wind would be coming off the water, so it's easy enough to set that up.
Okay.
All right. As those two head off, I'm going to assume the other two of you are showing up shortly.
Sure. Just say that Natalia shows up. She hasn't been back in the city for all that long, so this possibly the first time she's been to the Sept.
It would probably be her first time formally being on Sept, but Nightweaver is known as one of the Guardians, and as a Hamid, he's Hamid Shadow Lord. He's also in the city regularly, so you've encountered him in the past. He's kind of one of the, from a Hamid standpoint, he's one of the points of contact for the Sept.
Okay, cool. So he'd probably then recognize her. But she would formally introduce herself if he required it.
He's not concerned with it. He's encountered enough, and as Guardian, cool. he's pretty aware of who's around.
Then she'll acknowledge him and step on into the Sept.
Are we meeting this guy on the Sept?
Yes.
Then Victoria's going to have a very uneasy look, waiting for alarms to go off. If she was told to come.
Yeah, and she would be familiar with Nightweaver. He's, especially being he's a tribe mate, at least of his reputation.
Mm-hmm.
So he, as a Sept Guardian, he's kind of, again, one of the people she would have had contact with quite a bit. Even if she hasn't frequented the Sept in the past, that he would have reached out to her and kind of just made her aware that, hey, here's where the Sept is. Here's kind of the situation on Sept. I'm aware of you, so you're good to go, to approach the Sept, that sort of thing, to come on Sept. Basically, he's given you your entry card, so you're good to show up. And the Red Talon has basically said, yeah, we're going to go wait at the coast of the Sept for this unknown to show up. We know he's coming. We're going to meet him there.
We'll ask him, do you want us to go with them then?
Well, that's the marsh is Unchained Tribe's territory. The Red Talons maintain most of that for us. Certainly would be you're welcome to take the boat if you want to head off this outsider before he lands, but Unchained felt it would be prudent to meet him on familiar territory rather than out on the water. Given this outsider did at least introduce himself as he approached, granted he did it with a request for aid as well, but it'd be a pretty poor attempt to invade the Sept to come alone and announce yourself.
All right, I guess we will go with the Red Talon that way.
Yes.
Stands to mention the Red Talon has no pure breed, and he is actually a little runty. He's not very big.
And is being escorted by a absolute total biker guy that looks way out of place in the forest.
Victoria will follow after the Red Talon then, and his companion.
So will Talia.
Yeah. Do either of you have pure breed?
Yes. Pure breed 3.
Okay. Natalie, is Victoria rocking any pure breed?
Nope. She is rocking
Okay.
a cigar though.
Making a cigar?
One of the thinner cigars, not the big fat ones.
Like a cigarillo? I
Yeah.
think they're called? Okay.
Has a slight smell of cherry to it.
Unchained, I presume, has probably seen people smoking before. He doesn't understand why people inhale smoke and have fire close to their mouth, but Hamid's do Hamid things. He's just kind of leaving it up to them right now.
Talia, on the other hand, is completely unbothered. To being around people who smoke various things. So
Them peyotes, though.
right.
Alex will just remain
Sorry.
quiet though.
You cut out real hard.
Sorry,
I heard Alex and then blank.
sorry. I said Alex will nod to both of them, but remain quiet for the moment.
She'll return the nod.
All right, you guys reach this coastline. You can see out over the water pretty reasonably. It's relatively calm for an ocean, and you can certainly see I want to say a large craft, but bigger than the other boats on Sept. Still, obviously, just a coastal boat or a lake boat approaching. And one person visible at the helm who keeps looking back over his shoulder. If you guys are just going to wait and allow him to approach, he sails, and his boat is small enough. There's a couple of inlets where he can kind of get into the marsh a little bit and be under the tree cover. And that's what he does before dropping anchor.
Yeah. So what does this dude look like? Does he have any noticeable pure breed on him?
Well, from out on the boat, you're not able to tell, but if you're going to approach him as he comes to shore, you can. We can certainly do that. I didn't know if you guys were going to remain hidden and watch him come ashore, or if you guys were just going to go straight up to him.
Actually, one second. Sorry, before he lands, Alex is going to look at Unchained and indicate that he's going to go a little further ahead and see if we can see whoever's supposedly chasing the guy.
We should speak to him first.
Mm-hmm.
Or rather, you should speak to him first. Kind of knows Alex. You don't really want to do the talking right now.
All right.
I will watch for you. If he is an enemy, we will kill him.
Yeah. I'm more worried about what's chasing him, but...
You want me to come out there with you?
Maybe one face at a time is a little bit better. What do you think?
All right.
Alex will head out to meet the new arrival.
All right. And as you get closer, the most distinctive smell you get off of him is like seafood, like a fish smell.
Well, I just did a big order of fish for the set, so I'm guessing I'm used to that smell by now.
And as he comes closer, he says, he's kind of looking over his shoulder, and he says, "All right, I think I lost him, but we're gonna have to unload quick before he arrives. We're not gonna want him to find anything on my boat."
Unload what?
He gestures and he says, "The food, the harvest."
Ah, what? Who is following him? And he'll turn and walk towards.
He looks over the water, obviously looking to see if if he can see him, and he says, "I think it's a damn marshal, but they've been working with the game wardens and fish and game, and
I'm Alex.
oh yeah, pleasure. I'm Willie."
Pleasure. All right. Well, I got some help here. Alex will give a whistle back. Not in a way of come here, but of a it's safe to come out kind of whistle for the lupus in the group.
Victoria will make her way over then.
So will Talia.
So Nightweaver said specifically this was a howl for aid as well as an introduction, right?
Correct.
Okay. Either way, will it Unchained noticed that he didn't actually introduce himself, so he's not quite sure if this is a Garu or what. Especially since he hasn't noticed any pure breed or anything. So Unchained is just gonna see what happens, how the dude responds when he sees a motherfucking wolf walking up to him.
Okay. And he looks and kind of takes a little bit of a deep breath. You don't have any pure breed either, correct?
No, he hasn't.
Okay. And he just kind of nods a little bit at that, not detecting anything discernible.
Unchained will sniff the dude, just to kind of really get his scent down. This isn't looking for pure breed at this point. At this point, this is get to know the dude's scent.
Sure. All right.
So Unchained will say this. We'll just ask, "Who are you?"
He nods his head and he says, "William O'Malley, but more appropriately here, I am Sails with Gulls, son of the Stag."
Is he lying? I have a truth hearing, so if he is, it's going to be very difficult.
No, he's telling the truth.
Okay. Unchained will respond. I am Unchained Impulse. Listening Moon of the Red Talons. Clea. You said that this Marshall was following you. We'll kind of look to Victoria and Alex like he's almost like, is that right? Like
She'll nod.
And he kind of grabs like the ladder mounted to the side of his boat to start climbing up. He says, "Yeah, that's I don't know. Following, he was definitely knew I was out there and was after me. I think I may have lost him when I swung around and pulled into the marsh. Not many brave enough to do that with a boat this size, but."
not many brave humans.
He nods and he says, "Well, truth to that too." But this that marshal, he was a bold one. Came at me quick and he was harrying me pretty hard. He was trying to push me away from the marsh, get me out on open water, but he might have had a quick craft, but it was too small to. He wasn't expecting me to stay on a hard line with him.
Why is this Marshall after you?
He says, "Well, here, help unload this, and I'll show you." And he starts handing down. He's got like big, like the oversized coolers, and you can see him like leaning over the boat, handing one down.
Start taking what he's passing down.
When what gets passed down gets handed over to Alex, Alex is actually going to pop it open and look inside and make sure it's what he said it was.
Well, it's raw shrimp and crawfish by the gallon.
Okay.
And he says, "Yeah, marshals don't really like us running the coastline. The preserve here kind of technically is part of the coastline, is part of the preserve, and they really don't like you when you do it without paperwork. But I heard through the rumor mill that there was a food shortage. Some big fish orders came in that were delivered out this way close enough for those who know what to watch for."
Yeah, that was me.
Well, you might want to use some delivery proxies next time, or a drop point, cold storage unit, refrigerated trailer, and bring it out yourself, something like. Or just give it to my boat and I'll run it out here. But I picked up on it enough that I come and grab this here crawfish, whatnot, and
It's appreciated, man.
well,
I'm Alex Braden, by the way, around here. True Shot, Glasswalker, Arun, Leah, Too Late.
Marshall there appreciating it a little less, with me not having paperwork and harvesting on reserve territory and all that jazz.
Unchained will kind of nose Talia and Victoria to introduce themselves to.
Talia will introduce herself first. Say, I am Talia Howard heals the broken stories. Born on 2 legs under the gibbous moon of the Uktena. And Cleoth of the nation.
Victoria Looning, Stormcrow's daughter. Child of Grandfather Thunder, born on 2 legs in the half moon. Cleoth of the nation.
I am going to need a perception alertness from everyone.
Oh boy. Alrighty.
Standard diff.
Yeah. It'd help if I could roll the right dice.
Ooh, damn. Hit it. 4 successes.
I got 3.
1 for Victoria.
Well, that took a radical turn. I re-rolled it with the correct pool.
Ooh, someone botched.
All right. Every one of you hears the sound of metal hitting stone further down the coast slightly. True shot, you would recognize the sound of dropped ammunition. You've done it before yourself.
Oh, shit. Alex is going to reach towards his back and instinctively take out his gun. That was ammunition hitting the ground.
What is ammunition?
That means it's what comes out of the guns.
He taps the side of the gun.
I understand.
If they're dropping ammunition, that's a serious amount of ammunition to make that much noise.
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is just a marshla coming after you.
He is likely expecting 1. He will not be expecting 5.
Hey, John,
Yes.
spending a willpower for the activation of a gun's blessing.
I'm gonna spend a gnosis to activate Nyx's bangle.
Okay.
And draw my knife.
Alrighty.
John, with 3 successes, would I have recognized about how much ammunition was dropped?
Yeah, it was. Would have been over 6 shells for sure. So a decent handful at least.
He looks over at Unchained. It's his party.
Oh, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. He thought that, what he said before was pretty obvious what they was gonna do. They was gonna gank this motherfucker. Like, Unchained's making his way.
Yeah.
Victoria will move through the shadows quickly. As quietly.
Same with Unchained at this point, really. Unchained really wants to get the drop on this dude since he has seen that he knows firsthand what guns are capable of. Not today, Satan. Unchained is going to spend a willpower point to activate, not a willpower point, a gnosis point to activate heightened senses. And Unchained is going to see if he can't. He knows that when guns are fired, they leave this very strange smell. And considering he fired that many times, from what he understands, means that okay, that means that Unchained may be able to track that. So he's basically going to train the character John can like the gun smoke and like gunpowder and all that other shit.
All right. Well, you guys heard ammunition fall, but you didn't actually hear any gunshots yet.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
Victoria has 3 successes to start moving in that direction using stealth.
Okay.
So Alex is also heading in that direction, attempting to stealth. I've only got 1 success, so.
Yeah. That's stealth. Because, yeah, that's a good idea right now. Watch me botch it.
Stealth, okay.
Ooh, there goes 3.
All right.
Alex is providing the distraction.
Yep.
We'll go with that.
Woohoo! 3 successes.
All right. So you guys would all hear the cock of a gun hammer and a voice, obviously directed towards Alex, says, "Take another step, and I'll blast a hole in you."
And Alex will respond, "Drop your weapon now, or I will put a hole in you."
All right. So the rest of you guys are sneaking closer, and you notice that the Sales with Gulls has kind of like started trying to like unload by himself, but he's kind of like keeping behind the boat, so he's kind of out of sight. And the rest of you, as you guys approach closer, you see that gentleman with a very large revolver in his hand, pointed at Alex.
Hold on 1 second. And for those paying attention, the white-handled gun is what Alex has pointed back at him.
As the rest of you are closer, I will need a perception alertness from all of you, scent-based, if any of you have specialties relevant.
That include Alex or no?
He's still far enough away, he wouldn't be able to.
Okay.
Hey,
One
there goes two.
success. One success.
Yep, only one success.
All right. Everybody had at least one. So you guys would all smell silver and also a hint of pure breed.
What?
This marshal.
To Idris Elba?
Yes, the marshal.
Can we identify the pure breed?
Yeah, it's fairly distinctive. It's a COG pure breed. And he says back, he says, look, I don't know who you are, but you're in the wrong territory. This is a reserve. And furthermore, eating a poacher in Federal Reserve territory is a felony crime.
Drawing a weapon without identifying yourself is a very serious offense as well. How about trying to how about trying to introduce yourself?
Generally don't chit chat
Before I have to defend myself.
when I've got a poacher who has fled. I generally don't chit chat.
Yeah, well, I'm not your poacher.
No, you're the one standing next to his boat, helping him unload. That's what we call an accomplice.
Again,
Can I move up behind him?
you're not exactly identifying yourself.
Question, John. This is Red Town territory, correct?
Yes.
The child of Gaia just claimed this territory as his?
No, he stated that it was was a Federal Reserve territory.
He doesn't understand what Federal Reserve territory. That's all he knows, and he smells the silver. Yeah, no. What Unchained is going to do is, Natalie, were you going to do anything after you positioned yourself behind him?
She was gonna come up behind him and put the knife to his throat.
Okay, go and do that then. But you got the drop on.
All right. And he kind of blinks a little bit and he goes, must be time for a desk job. My senses are getting rusty.
Like I said, how about an introduction?
You first, buddy, right here.
No, that's Alex speaking.
Yeah, she's talking to the guy she's got the knife to the throat of.
Yeah, Alex is telling him to introduce himself.
This has to be the most aggressive defense of a poaching scheme I have seen in a long time.
Drop the gun.
His other hand pulls open his duster and you can see a badge pin there, and he says, I am Federal Marshal Dufresne. We are on a Federal Reserve, and that man has an exorbitant amount of wildlife that he was observed capturing, poaching in reserve territory within the boundaries of the reserve and without any kind of paperwork. Furthermore, his boat is unregistered.
I'm going to say this one more time because my friend there might get a little twitchy. Put the gun.
You requested an introduction. I have done so. I'm in
Unchained.
the habit of disarming myself.
Unchained
She'll
at this
put the
point.
knife in a little bit.
going to hold on, guys. Can y'all hear me?
I can.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to do a thing. Sorry about that, everyone. Unchained at this point, he's kind of seeing the what Tim would call a dick rating contest. He can smell the perfume breed. He's gonna do something a little impulsive, almost as if it's a part of his deed name, and say, "I do not care about your human authority, unicorn." Unchained is also behind him.
He kind of twitches a little bit, and then he says, "I didn't know we were in the habit of trucking with those who would rape Gaia of her bounty. Generally, in my experience, we kill poachers."
He's one of ours. He's feeding people.
I do not approve his methods. However, I also do not approve of the usage of silver in a territory owned by the Red Talons. So I will ask you, who are you really? I do not care about whatever piece of metal you happen to have on you.
Kim's a theurge, but I wonder if he's got a... Oh, he does.
Oh, sorry?
I don't know if anyone else has spirit speech, but I know you do.
I do have spirit speech.
And I know our wonderful Utena would, at this point, detect his weapon as being mystical in origin.
Ooh. Yes, I have sense magic.
And you as a theurge will, in spirit speech, hear, I don't take kindly to simply being referred to as silver. I've witnessed more wars than I care to count. And at least in the hands of this one, violence is done righteously.
Unchained's head will tilt to that one, and he'll actually respond with, "There is no righteous violence. There is only a righteous cause. Violence is violence." I will ask you once more then. You are not human. You are Garu, so who are you?
Yeah. Looks at you. Now I have to check another note because apparently I didn't fucking know.
Idris Elba will notice that Unchained stance. It is defensive, but not quite aggressive yet.
He says, "I am Terrell Dufresne. I'm known as Hunch the Hunter. He kind of gestures slightly with his other hand towards the revolver, and he says, "And this is the lawman." And my edicts are clear. Poaching is not tolerated. Those who poach do not serve Gaia. And you guys can sense that when he talks about poachers, like his rage flares.
Yep. And Unchained will say, and I agree. However, I've been told that there are many, what do humans call it? He may be poaching, but he will be feeding the Sept, our kin.
His head whips around at that, and he says, "There's no Sept here. It hasn't been Sept here in years."
But there is.
Buddy.
You are way
There's
out of
one only. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ian.
Alex is going to step out into view and goes, "You are just simply out of." And he actually puts his gun away.
There is a Sept, but a short run away from here.
My mother spoke of a Sept here, but she said it was wiped out by the storms when I was younger.
It was found yet again afterwards.
How would your truth seeker feel about a poacher? No matter what the justification.
That will be for the truth catcher to decide.
Well, I suggest we fetch him or her. Or do we intend to march all the way into the middle heart of the Sept with a poacher?
I would suggest we all put our weapons away and talk this out like gentlemen and ladies.
He does holster his weapon.
Thank you.
Unchained will relax a little bit at that.
He says,
Victoria will relax the knife at his throat.
Alex is going to wave at Victoria to put it away.
And she'll spin it down into her boot.
"You want to welcome a poacher onto your Sept, then it's your business. I don't need to be part of a Sept that welcomes poachers. Poachers got one place, and that's swimming in the bayou feeding the gators." you got someone on your SEP that wants to handle this correctly, they can talk to me.
So, what do you consider the difference between a man who hunts his prey to feed his family and a man who hunts a lot of prey to feed a sept?
When one hunts prey that there will be none left. When one hunts in excess. It is not the way of Gaia. Some predators must die as well.
I would ask that you bring that message to the rest.
Alex is actually going to.
I would suggest that you.
Sorry.
All Unchained's response to that will be, I suggest you bring that message to the rest of humanity.
Alex is going to look at Talia and go, "Do you know how to use one of these?" And he indicates the gun.
That would be you.
He says, I bring that message to humanity. That's what I do. It's my job. Silver
She
and
shakes
steel,
her head.
and I bury it in those who would violate Gaia.
Poaching would imply ownership. That's where the laws of poaching come from. Are you implying ownership? Because if so, you're going to have a bit of a problem, especially with our friend over here.
All creatures belong to Gaia. When one takes them wantonly and without respect, when one uses the tools of the weaver to strip the prey from their territory, or even prey has territory, has a place they call home, and to simply reap them as if they were wheat cut down. That is not the way of Gaia. That is not the way of the litany.
You fight this hard for the wheat that they cut down.
Tim.
Are we men
Yes.
that we abuse the land?
Alex is going to look at you and he's going to indicate back to the Sept. He's going to make a motion like he was going to run back to the Sept.
Okay. Unchained's cool with that.
Does Talia take the gun that he asks her to hold for a second?
Yes, she takes the gun.
Okay.
And she's like kind of confused at this child of Gaia because these are not he's not representative of the children of Gaia that she was raised with.
This is fucking Eminent Strike, Tyler guy. Fuck, you got mine.
Right? This is more extreme than she's used to out of children of Gaia.
John, Alex is going to go into the brush where his view of him is obscured, and slow shift down to Lupus and run for the truth catcher.
All right.
Do you seek out farms to destroy for the damage that caused to the land? Do you seek out the cities that scar the face of Gaia? Do you raze them to the ground?
I use the tools I have as a lone wolf. That sometimes means turning the tools of the weaver and of mankind against them. I enforce laws and regulations stringently. I push to have those be tightened like nooses around those who would violate them.
So you only pick one portion of the harm that's being caused to fight against and ignore the rest.
Those who would pollute, whose cities spread corruption, they too are brought to justice. Those who farm irresponsibly, they too are brought to justice. I must hunt with the pups of mankind, those who don't understand the edict, but still try. They call themselves conservationists. They are children who understand not what they must preserve, but they attempt. And then he kind of lifts his lip in a little bit of a sneer, and he says, "And while their methods may be flawed and inadequate, they at least don't invite the corruption in with them."
She takes a deep breath. That's almost her taking a rage. That hits a little personal.
You are better than most Hamid's Half Moon. And so I must ask, why do you still wear the human skin and wear that metal on you and say that it is your power? When we both know that it is easily one of the weakest parts of yourself.
Because some of them are the enemy, they're also a weapon.
So
Turn
now
them
you would
against
use
one
the
another,
worm
then they kill
as
each other.
So you try and turn the weaver against the worm that they might win this battle for you. You're aware that. Oh God, you are so ignorant.
Not all mankind is of the worm.
But enough of them are.
And the rest of them are simply dogs that I send forth.
So you have no value for life. Now I'm starting to understand.
That's not very Gaian of you.
Remember, humans, though they may be overpopulated and cause quite a bit of destruction out of ignorance, they're still creatures of Gaia. Treating them as if they're just cannon fodder makes you no better than the worm.
Individual lives pale in comparison to the life of Gaia as a whole.
And what makes you think you have the right to decide which of their individual lives are worth destroying?
It's not a matter of right. It's a matter of willingness.
What auspice did he say he was?
I don't think he mentioned an auspice. But Unchained straight up called him a half moon, and Idris Elba didn't disagree with that.
I remember being a boy watching these men kill, rape, and pillage the bounties of these marshes. Maybe not these specific of the swamp, but those of the area. And I remember seeing them kill one of these our scaled cousins. Simply another trophy for them. As they tore away one of those who keeps the memory of Gaia. When they are willing to pick up arms themselves, when they're willing to cleanse their own corruption, then I will not continue to decide for them who lives and dies. When they take the responsibility themselves to decide who lives and dies. Honestly.
Perhaps we'll start having a lottery. Let them decide that way who gets to go and fight for their life today. Maybe make it a yearly spectacle.
That is not keeping in Gaia either. Predators
It
hunt
would be an
prey.
honest way.
The strong defeat the weak. The strongest lead. We are predators.
And do you think you're the strongest?
Compared to a simple man, a mortal, I let them try me. Challenge me. If their way is better, they'll be victorious. So far, I've fed 17 men to these swamps and to Gaia, that their flesh might nourish her, might help rebuild what it was they stole. 30 more I turned over to the justice of man. Because while it might be a poor system, a flawed system, it nevertheless is a system. And it's more than what we have. We don't have tribunal. We don't have judge or jury. When mankind oversteps his boundaries, we either roll over and accept it or we remove them. There are times when neither is an acceptable option. At those times, mankind's system is a stopgap. It removes these poaching scum from their activities when I cannot. You say he is not a poacher, but one helping you out. One seeking to feed the hungry. Do we not feed the hungry with moderation? Do we kill simply for pleasure?
Would you have him take half as much 3 times as often?
I would
That's
have
how
him
the
take what is
fisheries
needed
do.
and none less, none more. Excess does not lead to
And
the
how do you know he took in excess? How do you know there are not that many that need food? You don't even know of this sept, and yet you're deciding what is acceptable for it? That is not your choice.
Does one hunt for their entire pack, or do they expect their pack to hunt for themselves as well? Are we that weak that we must rely on a single hunter? If so, are they worthy of this harvest? Pups must be fed.
Yes, and warriors who are busy fighting wars, who cannot spend as much time hunting for them and their pack, must have food. Would you starve your warriors just because they cannot take the time to hunt for themselves at all points? Or would you ask that they feed upon the corpses of their fallen?
He stops and he looks around at all of you and he says, is this sept truly in that much danger, in that much conflict, that we are unable to hunt for ourselves? And he seems genuine in his question.
She hasn't been here long enough, so she'll glance over to Unchained.
John, is that a problem right now?
Well, you would know that the biggest obstacle right now is that agents of the worm control a lot of the rebuilding efforts of the city, and so they're kind of pushing like development and so while maybe they're not attacking the sept directly, they're
Too much food is tainted.
extreme growth among the agents of the worm.
Yeah,
And
and
it's kept the sept from being able to flourish on its own.
okay. I imagine the Red Talons have had less issues because they can just go hunting.
Yeah, but they would have still seen the agents of the worm basically right up to their borders. You know, that there's a lot of development and stuff outside the sept. That they have less hunting territory off sept. So it's kind of
Alrighty.
everybody's kind of getting hemmed in more and more by development and that sort of thing.
Okay. So Unchained will look to Hunts the Hunter and says, the humans in their Weaver Mountains, they are expanding again. There is less territory to hunt on. Some packs can stay fed. Those that are less than able, or the less capable Hamids, find it far more difficult. I would say then, if you wish to pass judgment, that you should take it up with our truth catcher, who is either on their way, or we will be on our way to them.
And shortly after that, True Shot would return with the Truth Catcher, who's actually a COG herself.
I'm assuming I would have given her the quick and dirty of
Right.
what the situation was, and yes, True Shot is in lupus form. Which is regularly not a very pretty sight for a glasswalker, but he is in such a.
With the Truth Catcher, the warder himself has come as well. Uh, Given this multiple foreign guru and whatnot, he felt it appropriate to attend as well. And they both arrive, and the marshal looks at uh, first at the truth catcher, who he recognizes as a tribe mate, and he says, "I will be brief in my introduction. I am Hunts the Hunter, warrior son of Gaia, and I." And he you can see him gritting his teeth. He doesn't want to be polite about this, but he says, "I ask, is it true that this sept is under such constant threat that the litany itself is strained, that keeping to our ways is difficult due to the conflict?" And the truth catcher kind of looks around, and the warder nods his head, and he says, "We fight more battles than we can hope to win, unless we fight constantly and we drag them out."
True shot still in lupus form has retaken his position directly between Hunts the Hunter and Gull.
The wormful looks at the first at Victoria, um, and he says, "Nightweavers told me of you." He says you are a half moon.
She will nod.
Do you feel that both of these guru came here with at least just intent, if misguided?
Sales with Goals came to bring food for those that are hungry. Hunts the Hunter came to kill Sales with Goals for taking food for the hungry. He feels that he took too much. He has made it his decision that doing so without all the information justifies his killing, or his killing to be, if he were to have been let free to simply attack. I understand why he looks down upon people taking food. He's caught up in the human idea of poaching and that this land belongs to the humans. This land does not belong to humans. If anybody, it belongs to the Red Talons and to the Sept, as this is their territory. So he has stepped outside of where he has right to make the decision on if he has taken too much.
He'll nod, and he'll say, sometimes we act on a story, even if it is a wrong story, or it lacks information. When one does this, are we not wiser to educate us, to tell them another story, another side?
And we have. While Alex came to seek you guys out, we told him the truth of what was going on. He did not believe that a sept was nearby. We explained the needs of the sept. He takes his charge as marshal, preventer of poaching, very fiercely. Which is not to say that that's bad, but when he sees that it's one of his own kind, he should not be coming after them with a gun firing silver. For to use silver on one of your own is frowned upon.
That is true. And while judgment lies with the half moon's interpretation and understanding, lies with another. Do we have any of the gibbous moon here? Newcomers?
Yes, the Uktena girl. Nalia, I think. Talia, she said.
Yeah, Talia steps forward.
And you would know the litany better than all the rest of us as a gibbous moon. And you have heard his tale as well. His reasons, his words. Did those words reflect the litany?
She thinks about that for a moment. She kind of like weighs it back and forth in her head. From what I hear of both of them, the closest one to breaking the litany would be Hunts the Hunted, as he was about to essentially just go ahead and kill somebody, another Geru, for a wrong that he believed he committed without consulting the proper avenues.
And this so-called poacher, you feel his actions and his words represent the litany.
He was doing his guiding duty by caring for others, and we have no way of knowing if he... Well, I mean, we could ask him, did you perform the proper rites to thank the prey for lending themselves to you.
And Sales says, I had intention to, but my first priority was, of course, to get to safety.
She'll nod. Of course, it's not against the litany to not perform those rites, but I don't see any litany violation on the side of the, and she'll air quote, poacher. And even in the human world, if someone is caught illegally hunting on Federal Reserve grounds, they don't get killed. They get fined, prosecuted, kicked out. He was taking matters into his own hands and being very extreme. So, if anyone was in the wrong here, it's Hunts the Hunted.
The truth catcher then looks at Victoria and he says, our Galliard attests the sales with Gull's actions and words reflect the litany. How would you respond to him? How shall we treat him as a newly announced and arrived guru?
John, just so you know, in a very, very odd and awkward-looking way that the Homits would recognize, True Shot is raising his hand. Well, his paw. Him being Homid, it's just a reflex for him, but he's obviously asking this.
And the truth catcher will kind of like acknowledge you, but you can see he's waiting for an answer from Victoria first.
Yeah.
As Sales with Goals has not broken the litany and was coming bearing food for the sept, food which is much needed by the people of this nation, I would bid him bring the food to the sept, welcome him.
The truth catcher nods. Then he looks over and he kind of looks at the other group with you, but then he looks over at Hunts the Hunter and he says, and our Galliard has deemed that this one's words and actions do not reflect the litany. The litany does not lie in what he has done. He has acted rashly and with violence against another guru without gathering all the information. How shall we handle him?
She contemplates that. Perhaps having a conversation in her head. And she'll then take a deep breath.
True Shot mutters something about not worthy of the weapon he wields. Obviously muttering it to himself, but it may have been loud enough for people who have heard.
He carries himself above the law. He considers his weapon a sign of that. He should be remanded of the weapon until he has proven himself to have learned and grown. Gaia's short warriors, killing him would be a waste. He's willing to listen as he has stood here and listened to us while we waited for your arrival. Perhaps in time, days, years, if necessary, he will learn and grow. In the meantime, he will serve aiding the sept. Perhaps if he finds other poachers, he can ensure that their cargoes are returned to the sea or brought to the sept so that we no longer have to seek out and poach, as he would call it. The harm is done once they have been removed from the ocean, and returning them would simply add death.
The truth catcher looks at you and says, well, I recognize and respect your reasoning and judgment. I will not be the one to separate any guru from a fetish bearing their ancestor spirit. That being said, he turns to Hunts the Hunter. You may either be banished from this sept, and I will spread word of your actions, or you will attend this sept, and you will attend with the cubs under the Den Father to understand how to be part of a community that follows the litany. When the Den Father feels you are ready, you will study under another and then another until you understand the roles and responsibilities that go into being part of a community. You have two choices. Be the lone wolf, be the hunter who is hunted, or learn to be part of a pack and a sept. Learn to be guru. Does this seem a fair offer to you, young Half Moon? The truth catcher looks back at Victoria.
She nods.
And the marshal kind of lowers his head and thinks for a moment, and he kind of looks around. As he does, the warder looks at Unchained, and he says, and you telling who have had experience with rash Aruns and whose territory was violated, is there anything you would ask for this offense?
I may be a member of the tribe who has grievance, but it's obvious that Unchained is trying to come up with the words for this. The Talon in charge would be the one to speak to, Raya.
You are the one who was here, who has witnessed the activity. I could seek your elder. I could inform him And if he is smart, he would ask your input anyway.
Unchained will take that then, and he'll say, "It is true that Hunt the Hunter acted rashly. However, I am also one who is impulsive. It is one of the many Hamid words I have had to learn. If he sees you in a territory belonging to the Talons, I will say that he go to the owner of the territory rather than take things into his own hands. This was not a pressing enough matter for that, for his actions. There was no Fomori here, nor was there a Black Spiral here. I believe that were this a spiral, he would be celebrated for his initiative.
The warder nods and he kind of gestures to True Shot and he says, just as that one would have been if it would have been a dangerous interloper the other night. But it wasn't. It's a difficult thing for us. And he looks at Hunts and True Shot to learn to temper our rage, a desire to hunt, to kill, to fight. After the den, should you choose to stay, Hunts, then after the den, Father, you will then attend the Talons. You will hunt for yourself, feed yourself, fend for yourself. And learn how even that independence is part of the larger structure. And Hunts kind of nods his head in understanding. And then he kind of looks at him. And he drops to one knee. And as he does, he shifts to Krynos and he turns his wolfish head, showing his throat. And he says, I have always hunted alone. You've told me there's another way. Teach me.
Trishot will trot over to where he originally transformed and will relax to Hamid form and put his clothes back on and come collect his gun from Talia.
The warder then looks around at the four of you and he says, since you've proven yourself so adept at gathering information, making decisions, and putting the SEP's interests first and foremost, I have another matter to bring to you. Tonight in the city there is a gathering. They refer to it as the Endless Night, the Vampire Ball. We must have representatives of ours to find out, is this indeed something ran by the leeches? Is it something ran by one of these mystic mortals, these cairn stealers and name breakers? Is it an unwitting kinfolk who has pierced the veil? Because what we do not know the details of this endless night. What we do know is this: their vampire ball treads dangerously close to the truths that even the leeches and even the cairn stealers and name breakers strive to keep hidden. And that is our existence. We must find out who and what the individual running this is. And if he is kinfolk, we must recruit him and educate him. If he is leech, we must assess how dangerous he is. We cannot act rashly if he is this well entrenched. And if he is a name breaker, we must understand him better. For while they are dangerous and not to be trusted, they are still human and can be an ally. Thus I task the four of you: attend this endless night ball, deduce the truth of the host, and let us act in the best interests of the sept.
Yes, Raya.
You know, with that, he turns and he grabs Hunts the Hunted, and he shifts to Krynos as well. And he literally hauls him by the scruff of the neck. And as he's walking away, you can hear him say, he says, "Understand this, pup. You keep your little ancestor silver pea shooter. You use it on one of mine, and you won't have enough bullets for that thing to stop me." And he lets out kind of a dark chuckle as they walk into the swamp. The truth catcher looks at the four of you, and he says, or she says, "We appreciate your assistance in this matter, and indeed in the care you handled this situation with. I will take Sales back with me. We will find him a place. We will bring around his boat. Victoria, I suspect that the marshal came in some sort of craft of his own further down the shore. Further, I suspect that your tribe mate, Nightweaver, would be a good candidate to talk to for alternative documentation, should you wish to retain that craft for yourself."
She'll smile. Thank you, Raya.
And as she turns, she says, "And make no mistake, Gibbous Moon. I will make sure our Alpha hears how carefully you considered the words before you shared your own. There's wisdom in this.
She just smiles and nods.
I suspect he will contact you sooner than typical, as both a tribe mate and a auspice mate. And unless I miss my guess, you are of the tribe's Hamid bloodlines as well. I believe the appropriate term is indigenous native or Native American. Where Alpha speaks with streams, is a tribal elder as well among the Hamid tribe, a respected Seminole. I expect he will have much interest in you.
She'll nod.
As
I look forward to that.
a truth catcher, kind of gestures up to the boat and climbs up with sails. She looks over at Unchains and she says, "No words are needed, Talon." And she just nods.
+5 respect points. Oh. We're back again, y'all.
And if they've been released, she will head down the coast to find the marshal's boat.
And it's a small craft, but it's definitely acceptable for coastal seawater. But it's a clearly like more of a speedboat type, like a pursuit boat.
She's gonna have a slight smile as she gets this. Oh boy, we're gonna have some fun.
All right. And if nobody has anything else, I will wrap this one up. All right, then as they disperse to pursue their next task, we will rejoin the Guru as well as other night folk as they attend the Endless Night Vampire Ball and find out just what this host knows. Thank you for joining us. This has been a werewolf scene for the Shadows of New Orleans.